Oh my god, what is that dog? Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Dr. What? School's Out! I'm Jeannette!
And I am Sarah.
And I need to stop. I need to, come up with something less corny. I mean, Nyat was good, I think, in the cat nurse episode, but,
Yeah.
School's out for the summer? I guess because it is summer.
Is it? Oh, it's summer now.
It is summer now.
But in the episode, is it summer?
This is true. This is true. It is during the school year in the episode.
It's not winter.
It's not winter. Speaking of episodes, this episode today that we are going to be talking about is called School Reunion, which I don't think Sarah and I ever will have, to be honest.
I've been, thinking about that.
Right? I mean, my grandmother still goes to her high school reunion or, her college reunion. I don't remember what. And it's only her and one other person who is still alive.
Oh my god. I'm sorry, I was laughing and now I'm not anymore. Wow.
Well, maybe all of her classmates got eaten by the, whatever they're called.
The Krillians, Killian. I have a cousin named Killian.
That's because you're Irish. Right on. Let's talk about the episode.
Well, wait, before we talk about the episode, we should
Yes.
talk about your experience at the Dallas Fan Expo.
Yes, it's now been so long since I was there. I think the last episode we recorded was literally the weekend before I was supposed to go.
Yes, yeah.
So this is it's been a long time coming. But yeah, Fan Expo Dallas. I'm sure if you all are on Tumblr or, on the internet, you've seen the interviews with Catherine Tate and, everybody who was on that Doctor Who panel. But I didn't go because I was throwing up in the bathroom. So that's how my Fan Expo went.
Oh,
It's okay. I got really sick in the middle of it, and it was very bizarre. But when I wasn't sick, it was amazing, and I stood in line for 3 hours to get an autograph from David Tennant. And when I went up to see him, he was wearing a really cunty flower printed shirt, and I really
God.
sneakily took a picture of him from the line, and it's not a very good picture. But I go up to talk to him, and he goes, "Hello," and I go, "I'm just so excited to be here," like a fucking idiot. Absolutely, I was struck dumb. Literally dumb. And then he was like, "Well, I'm happy to be here too," and then he signed my print.
Oh my god, dude, I would have pissed myself.
I had planned out what I was gonna say. I was gonna be the first time I ever saw you in anything was when you were in BBC's Casanova. I just love your work, blah, blah, blah. But I said, "I'm just so happy to be here."
I mean, you were in a situation, not a fight or flight situation, but fight or flight's cousin. You know what I mean?
Fight or fuck. Flight or fuck. Fuck or flight.
Or fuck. You were either gonna fuck him or kill him.
Well, and here's the thing. After I left the line, I went to go see my friend with whom I went to the convention, Samir, friend of the podcast, Samir. And immediately, I said, "I need him carnally." And then we left. Because it had gotten so late. We waited in line for so long. And I was one of the first people in the overflow line, which, imagine that, the first person in the overflow line.
Yeah.
It was so late that the convention hall had closed. But the, security guard was like, "Mr. Tennant's not gonna leave until he gets everybody's thing signed." And everybody was like, "Yay!"
That's so nice of him.
It was really nice of him. And we got to see Catherine Tate also because her line was way shorter. So she stuck around for a little bit and she was like palling around and we all like gave a rousing round of applause when she finally left and it was really awesome.
That's amazing. What a surreal experience.
Yeah. And I was so jealous because one of Samir's friends had gotten a photo op with the both of them, with Catherine Tate and David Tennant. And I literally like, you know when people get, like, cuteness aggression? Like, you see something really cute and you want to, like, squeeze it or, like, hit it or bite it or something? This is, like, a recorded phenomenon. I got, like, envy aggression. I was like, I need to be you. Like, why am I not you? But anyway.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you had that experience.
It was really amazing, and if an experience like that ever happens again, you are literally coming with me or else. Like,
yeah, hold me at gunpoint.
Literally, GoFundMe Sarah of Dr. What fame, get Sarah in the same room with David Tennant. Let's see what happens.
That's perfect.
Well, we've got some old friends in this episode. It really was a reunion. That was kind of clever on the showrunner's part to call it a school reunion, because my classic Who ass was very shocked and surprised and pleased to see Sarah Jane Smith, of course, which was so awesome.
I wanted to ask you about that. I was like, we have like the perfect setup here to talk about like this whole dynamic in this episode, which was so interesting.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about this episode, which we can get into as soon as I read off the synopsis, since we've been dancing around what this episode's about. So, episode synopsis, as always, from the eternal TARDIS.fandom.com/wiki. Defreevale High School. Oh, I can't believe it's a high school. Those kids look so, like, young. Is it really a high school? Or is it, like, British high school?
14. I feel like ages 13 to 15, that would, like, make sense to me that they look like that.
Okay, all right. Well, anyway, Defreevale High School is haunted by strange bat-like creatures at night. When the 10th Doctor investigates, he finds an old friend, Sarah Jane Smith, already working undercover.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. It's very short and honestly, like, not a very good synopsis at all.
Well, I like how it teases more. Like, oh, you just need, like, the name drop and immediately people are hooked. Like, I get why it's so short.
True. That is true. I did find this episode lacking in terms of, like, context. I was kind of like, what's going on this entire episode? But that's, you know, we can discuss that later. Do you have any fun facts for the episode?
I've got a couple.
Ooh.
Do you want to hear them?
Yes, I do.
All right. So, as we know, David Tennant is already a huge Who fan, and his excitement at meeting Elizabeth Sladen, the actress for Sarah Jane Smith, was totally genuine. He was really excited to see her. So when he goes like, Sarah Jane, like, that's just him, which is so sweet.
Oh.
Yeah. And then, LOL. So Sarah's last line to K9 is, "We've got work to do." This was also the last line of the original series run at the conclusion of the 7th Doctor story, Survival.
Oh, that's so nice. I love that.
Yeah, it ties everything together really nicely, and I feel like it fits in with, like, the theme of this episode, which I guess we'll get into when we're talking about our best parts and worst parts, but it very much felt like classic Who meets new Who, and kind of like the tension between it and also like the common threads, and it was very cool.
Yeah 100%.
Did you want to get into the best parts and worst parts now that we're already talking about it?
Sure, we can. I want you to go first. I think I want to hear what your best part was.
I know my best part. I feel like the second the episode started, I was like, this is going to be my best part. And it did not wane or waver. It's the dialogue.
Ooh, yeah.
This episode was also written, I forgot to say earlier, by Toby Whithouse.
Okay. I was going to say,
Yeah.
because it did not feel like a Russell T Davies episode at all. And that's something I noted in my notes. I was like, who wrote this? Because it's definitely not him. Not in a bad way. I was just like, it's just so departed from his style that I was like, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah. Like, the episode just, it feels like so tight. I feel like Russell T Davies' episodes kind of meander around a little bit, but this episode had all of those great, like, character moments that Russell T Davies has without, like, sacrificing, the general, like, plot of, like, the monsters and whatever. Like, it all just, like, it tied together so nicely, and I feel like the dialogue flowed really well. Like, just even for every, like, little bit. Like, there's that scene where Mickey goes off to, like, find something when they're searching the school at night, and then immediately walks back and is like, where is it again? And Rose is like, on the left, or whatever. I don't know the exact words, but just, like,
Yeah.
I don't, like, everything. And, like, I just loved how they talked to each other. I loved the back and forth. Like, it was so good. Even when Rose and Sarah Jane were kind of, like, having their, like, little fights, like,
Yeah.
even even those lines about the mice where Rose is like, oh, where are you from, the Dark Ages? And and Sarah Jane is like, oh, well, they dissect rats in school, you know, like, shouldn't you know that? Like, how old are you again? Like, it is so, I don't know, it just felt very clever, and I liked it a lot.
I also found the dialogue, like, very good in this episode. I think everybody played off of each other really well. Like, it was so good, and you could tell that the actors had a lot of fun, like, working with the dialogue also. It's so great when you have phenomenal acting performances paired with really great dialogue, because a really great actor can take bad dialogue and kind of do a lot with it, but it's just magic when you also have, like, oh my god, like the conversation that the Doctor and Sarah Jane have when they're first alone together, and they're talking about how, you know, he abandoned her. She was like, I was waiting for you, like, why'd you just dump me? Oh my god, that was so good. Like, the dialogue was so good.
Yeah, because it's very clever in the lighthearted moments, but the emotional moments hit just as hard. Like, it's a great balance between, like, haha funny and also, like, oh my god, like, I'm gonna cry. Like, that line the Doctor has when he's talking to the headmaster, and the headmaster is kind of, like, revealing his plan.
Yeah.
I'm so old now. I used to have so much mercy. You get one warning.
Yeah. Dude, I know. I wrote it down.
So did I.
I literally
Yeah.
wrote it down also. It was so good. And exactly how, like, 10 is just so much more willing to, like, put it as it is that way. And it's crazy, too, because he kind of flips on a dime, because in the episode with Harriet Jones, when he's like, oh, like, you wouldn't spare them, and now he's just, like, gotten to this point where he just doesn't have any more. It's like, ooh, it's so good. It's literally so good.
It's so good. Like, we'll get into it later. I want to hear your best part.
Okay, I think my best part was definitely Sarah Jane being back. Like, I almost didn't recognize her at first because she had, like, a really cunty 70s hairstyle when she was... I haven't seen her with John Pertwee. I've seen her in Four's season with Tom Baker, or Four's series, I should say. And I also haven't seen, like, so many episodes with her, but as soon as they were like, oh my god, when 10 is like, Sarah Jane Smith, like, he says something, like, really endearing about her, I was like, no shot. And then when K9 showed up, I got so hyped. I was like, no way. This is really... You know they had a spin-off series? The two of them? The dog and Sarah Jane?
The Sarah Jane Adventures, right?
Yes, with K9. So funny.
The Sarah Jane Adventures, they were kind of like the children's series that Russell T Davies wanted to develop. I think I actually read that he wanted to write more about her into like the actual show, but then ended up making a whole like separate series.
Yeah.
So you've got like Torchwood, which is supposed to be like the gritty, edgy, like adult one, and then you've got like Sarah Jane Adventures, which is supposed to be like more kid friendly, like for like the younger ones. And then there's also, speaking of spin-offs, there was one called Class, which came out when we were in high school, and it was supposed to be like a teen drama.
Okay.
Taking place in the same high school that Susan went to.
Okay.
It didn't really do well, but it's interesting how they all kind of like have their own like niche audience, and how Sarah Jane is like integral to that. And this is like the kickoff episode for all of it.
Oh, that's awesome. Cool. I like that a lot. But yeah, I really enjoyed having her back again. And I was doing some research because I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she's back. And she is the most prominent, or maybe that's not the right word, the longest serving companion, or one of them, and this is from the Wikipedia, the Sarah Jane Smith Wikipedia, co-starring in 18 stories or 80 episodes with the third and fourth incarnations of the Doctor, which is crazy. That is a lot of episodes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I just think it's so great that they incorporated her in the revival also. Like, that is just amazing.
And the perfect time to do it, too. I feel like Rose Tyler is like, she's like her own person, but like she's a great counterpart to Sarah Jane.
Yeah.
Because like Sarah Jane was like that bitch, you know, and like Rose Tyler and like the reboot, even now, like almost 20 years later, is still like that bitch, and like the new Who series. So it's just like lightning in a bottle.
It's true.
To have like a fantastic writer, these two like larger than life, super popular companions of their like respective eras like together, and then you have like the 10th Doctor there, who is also like one of the most popular doctors like of all time. And then you've got the two tin dogs.
Dude, I felt so bad for Mickey in this episode. Like, Man, we really need to get those Mickey Protection Squad or Mickey Defense Squad t-shirts like printed out or something, because I've just felt so bad for him this whole time.
Yeah, he like, okay, well, I did love his entrance. I love that they like mention him earlier on. The Doctor's like, oh, your boyfriend clued us into this or whatever, and then like Mickey is like sitting at home typing on his computer like, I got in, like he's like in like hacker mode. He's like, yeah, I'm into like the government, like whatever, like
dude,
he's just like a hacker now.
I that was so like, that was one of the things that I was kind of like, oh, like what's going on? I was kind of like, oh, what, like Mickey's here now, and he's also like, because he's always been like the guy who like looks stuff up and, you know, is kind of on the tech side. But I was just like, whoa, like literally what is he doing here? Like, when did he get here? Like, hello. But I certainly did not mind having him. And I think it is good that he's kind of recognizing now, like, he is the tin dog. And he needs to step, like, I want him to not be the tin dog, but he needs to do that for himself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
although
I think,
I don't know.
Yeah, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say K9 is like integral. Like, he is the one who saves the day, you know?
It's true, but he is also a tin dog.
Yeah. No, it's funny how the Doctor refers to Mickey as her boyfriend, and I think that Mickey does that too with like the Doctor. Like, they both like acknowledge that like they're Rose's boyfriends.
Yeah.
Which I think is so funny. It's also so different to like the 9 Jack Rose like polyfill, because they were all like together, and with this it's just like the Doctor is Rose's like primary partner, and like Mickey is just like her secondary.
It's when Mickey said that line that was like, oh, the missus and the ex, like, you're in it now, or whatever. I was like, dude, that would never, ever, ever happen with 9. Like, ever.
No, yeah, 10 is such a slut. Although, okay, I do have a question for you.
Yes.
I so I didn't watch Classic Who. Um I don't know like the nature of Sarah Jane's relationship to the Doctor. Is it just like taking a more romantic angle for the sake of this episode, or was it like that in Classic Who? Because I don't really think that they had the companions be romantic in Classic Who, did they?
No, I mean, there's definitely, like, it was a lot more chaste and, like, a lot less explicit in Classic Who, I feel. I mean, definitely you have fans, like, reading into it and, like, shipping people and whatever,
Right.
whatever. But as far as I am aware, and keeping it real, I have not seen an episode of Classic Who in, like, a very long time. And I also, like, I can't pretend to be, like, the most well-watched in it. I've just, like, seen some. But I think they definitely played it up being a little bit more romantic, I think. But I could be wrong.
Okay, yeah. I'm like Googling it right now, and I'm
Yeah.
like scrolling through Reddit, and it seems like she definitely cared about him deeply and like loved him and everything.
Yeah.
But they took the more
Like, he
romantic
never,
angle.
like, yeah. I definitely don't think he ever reciprocated the way that, like, 9 or 10 acted with Rose, you know what I mean?
Yeah, okay. But like speaking of which,
Yeah.
that moment with the Doctor and Rose where she is like, "Are you gonna leave me like Sarah Jane? Like, I thought you and me were." And then he
Dude.
says, and then he goes, "Imagine that happening to someone that you." Like,
Dude,
neither of
and
them.
she's like, "What, doctor?" She's like, "What?" Ah!
Can't. I'm like, I was actually just thinking about this. I was thinking about like why gay ships specifically are so popular in fandom. And it's because I feel like in a lot of stories, heterosexuality is seen as the default, right? So, like, a female
Yeah.
character is just kind of like shoved in there, and her main role is love interest, TM, and that's kind of like all she is. And so
Yeah.
the romance can be, and this isn't always the case, but a
Yeah.
lot of the times the romance can feel like threadbare because it's just assumed and there isn't really the work put in to make them actually like each other.
Uh-huh.
um and when you're reading into subtext with homosexual pairings and different media, like there's just like a lot more to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just thinking with Doctor Who, they like never, because the Doctor is such like a reticent character when it comes to his emotions, and it's
Yeah.
also like not a show where people are just gonna be like having sex with each other. You know what I mean? So like there needs to be that reading in between the lines, and I feel like so many of my favorite heterosexual pairings are from Doctor Who because of moments like this where they just like
Yeah.
don't say what they're feeling and they just like look into each other's eyes and like they know and we know but they can't say
Dude.
it. Like I
Dude.
love it.
They literally understand me for real. Like, I have never felt more like, I'm a private ass bitch. Like, you will not catch me saying a shit, but I will look at you. I'll look at you. By God, I'll look at you. Like, they understand. They literally get it. Like, nobody does it like that anymore. I just, it's so good. It's so fucking good.
Yeah. Also, there's so many things I want to say, and I feel like they all relate back to the dialogue in some like way, shape, or form. Like this episode is just so well written that it's hard to zero in on like one thing without immediately wanting to like talk about 100 other things.
It was a great episode. There were only a few things that, like, kind of irked me that I think weren't necessarily, like, really terrible faults, because everything else about it was just so great, like, as a whole. Even the parts that irritated me, they got resolved and then were, like, fine, because it just was a part of the way the episode, like, was running so, like, tightly. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, everything just flowed really well. I can't think of anything that I disliked. I want to know what you disliked.
Yeah, actually, I had an issue at first with the way that they pitted um Sarah Jane and Rose against each other, because I think it's just so tired when you have like, oh, the new woman or the other woman, and they like do that petty catfight thing, you know? I can't stand it. I'm like, okay, the misogyny is crazy. Like, I don't like it. But then it immediately was resolved because they started, like, bonding over blah, blah. And that still irritated me a little bit, where they were, like, bonding over him being, like, weird and his idiosyncrasies. I was like, okay, but this doesn't make it better. But then, later at the end of the episode, when Rose is like genuinely asking Sarah Jane's advice, and they're talking about, what does she say? She's like, sometimes it's better to be heartbroken, like, or something like that. Does she say something like that? I think so.
Yeah, she also tells Rose to like come and find her.
Yes, yes, that was like actually great solidarity, and I wish that they hadn't been so contentious. Like, even though that dialogue was funny, like, it just feels bad, especially since that didn't really feel like the kind of character that Sarah Jane is. Like, I think that Rose definitely has that petty ass bone in her, but
Wait,
Sarah,
sorry.
yeah,
I just wanted to like point out, when you're talking about Rose being petty, like when she says that like she loves the chips. She says the chips are gorgeous, which I love. And then her boss comes and is like, "You shouldn't be like socializing. Like, you're supposed to be working." And Rose is like, "I was just talking to this teacher. He didn't like the chips."
ah.
I love that about her. Anyway.
But yeah, she is so petty, and I can totally see her like going after Sarah Jane, but like to see Sarah Jane stoop to that level, it's like, it was almost sad. And I was like, man, I don't know if I fuck with that. But it was a means to an end, and I appreciated the end, and I thought the end was good. I just wish we could have gotten more of what I really liked about Sarah Jane, like, giving some advice into this like really complicated relationship that can only come from being a human dating a Time Lord, you know what I mean? Or like being in love with the Time Lord. Like, that part was so good. So the minor quaff of it being, kind of petty and misogynistic is like kind of small potatoes there, I suppose. And I had some other like minor things about the pacing of the episode was really tight, but then sometimes it did go a little too fast, where I was like, okay, where's the context for this? Like, what's going on? But it was good. It was still good. Like, I think it did a better job at doing that kind of like show don't tell than the last episode did, because the last episode was like confusing in the way that it didn't give you enough context. Like, okay, yeah, there are monks. There are monks in the there are monks.
Yeah. Okay, so about the squabble between Sarah Jane and Rose. So
Yeah.
that is like the main thing about this episode that I remember.
Yeah.
I didn't remember really like anything else about it going into it, so I was just like ready, like, oh, like we're gonna see some catfighting, blah blah blah. It'll be like an okay episode. But I feel like rewatching it, I kind of viewed it with through a different lens, where Sarah Jane is representative of the classic Who era, and Rose is representative of like the new Who era. And yeah, like, I suppose that it does kind of like reduce Sarah Jane's character a bit to make it like fit the episode. Like, I can't like argue with that. I'm not even like familiar enough with her character to refute it. But I thought it was really good to have like the most popular character, or the most popular companion from classic Who kind of come on and like challenge like the new young companion and to have them
Yeah.
like be at odds, because I feel like
Yeah.
it like represented like the fans almost. Like I can like imagine people like going like classic Who versus new Who, like which one is better, and to like have
Yeah.
them fight like that versus immediately get along like felt more like realistic when we're thinking about like the different eras that they come from.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um so yeah, like I feel like there was definitely like a deeper like meaning to that. Not to say that it excuses everything, but I feel like it added to my like enjoyment of the episode because I was like thinking more about it, like I guess like figuratively or like symbolically.
Yeah. That is totally like totally a valid way of seeing it, and I understand that, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it so much. It was just like one thing that when I initially was watching it, I was like, ah, man, didn't love that. But yeah, that totally, like, I can see it a different way now. Like, this is why I love discussing the episodes with you, because there'll be something that I'm like, ugh, at face value, like, ugh, I don't like that. Like, I'm over it. But then you'll come in and you'll be like, well, actually, if you think about it this way, like, not excusing it, but understanding it, like, from a different angle, then I'm like, oh, I can appreciate it more, and I don't have that hate. I can, like, let the hater bone in me, like, rest a little bit. It's like, down, boy. Like, don't be a hater right now. Like, you can save that haterism for something else. So,
I like
I
how
totally
you
get it.
describe the bone in your body as like a dog. Like
Dude, I got that dog in me. Like, that hater dog. It's really true. Not to be confused with the dog from the last episode, the werewolf dog.
oh my god.
And not to be confused with the weird bat things. That I thought the bat was a dog. That first part where the teacher, like, gets up from the desk and is like, this isn't your classroom, Kenny. Or, like, whatever the hell. I was like, oh my god, what is that dog? Like, what is that creature? The CGI was so bad.
Yeah. No, okay. One thing about the villains, though, that I did want to touch upon is, like,
Yeah.
I feel like there have been episodes, and this is, like, a problem, I think, in, like, Russell T Davies episodes, where he's, like, trying to have the character moments, but he drops the ball when it comes to, like, the aliens. Like, I'm thinking of Unquiet Dead. I can't remember if he wrote that, actually, but I feel like it happens, like, often enough that, like, like, he overdoes the fart jokes with the Slovene, and there's just like lots of moments like that where it's like, okay, like let's not have this be
The
happening.
Unquiet Dead was Mark Gatiss.
Mark Gatiss, you fucked up.
Well, I mean, that's why
that
he's
bad of
an
an
actor, right? And
but I don't know, you know what I mean though, right?
yeah, I understand what you mean.
Yeah, and I feel like in this episode the villains, like, were definitely simple. They wanted to take over the world and everything, but like the actor for the headmaster, I really liked his like cartoonish, almost like villainousness.
And you know who the actor for the headmaster is? Literally the first note that I made in my notes app when I saw the episode.
Who is he?
It's Uther Pendragon from Merlin.
Oh my god, I was gonna say, is it someone from Merlin?
It's literally always someone from Merlin. It's always someone from Merlin. I think Anthony Head, or maybe Heed, not sure how you pronounce his last name. I love this guy. He is so good as Uther, aka the father of Arthur, the king of whatever the hell. But dude, when I saw his ass get on screen, I was like, yes, Grandpa, let's fucking go. I got so hype, and honestly, he delivered. His little monologue where he was like, oh, Time Lord, like, oh, you senators, you scared of change and chaos, like, blah, blah, blah. I was like, yes, eating, let's go. It was so good.
Yeah, it was so good. Because here's the thing, their goal is simple, like, they want to take over the world, but, like, the specifics of that, it's like they're rewriting reality, and it ties in so well with the conflict, the emotional conflict of, like, him having to come to terms with the fact that he left Sarah Jane, and, like, Rose being confronted with it, and then confronting him. Like, a lot going on for the Doctor emotionally that, like, he is so out of his depth, and then he's given the opportunity to, like, rewrite reality. This doesn't have to happen. Like, he can keep both of them, he can keep everyone, he can save his people, which, by the way, this villain, I feel like, is the only one that's, like, hinted at, like, actually knowing the Time Lords.
Yeah.
Like, other people have known of them, but he's like, oh, like, I thought Time Lords were a peaceful people. Like, you're not like that. Are you going to declare war on me? It's so, like, what do you mean by that? Like, there's so much going on. And when he offers the Doctor that chance to, like, join them, the Doctor is, like, he, like, pauses in his tracks. And then when Sarah Jane is like, everything ends. Like, like it's an episode at its core about having to accept the fact that, like, things end. And then, like, Rose is just standing there, like...
Yeah.
Dude. Ugh.
Yeah.
These are things that, like, I totally missed on my first watch. I'm so glad that we are revisiting this because, wow, like, pieces are being moved. Toby Whithouse is amazing.
Yes. And it's so good, too, because, you know, we spoke about in the last episode and the episode before that about how, you know, the other shoe is going to drop, like, Ten's Doctor is really setting Rose up for, like, a really hard fall. And this is just, like, a glimpse into that. It's like, oh my god, the seeing visions of your future self. Like, you could become just like her, like, chasing after a doctor that never comes back, you know, after getting your heart broken and, like, seeing all these amazing things and, like, blah, 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 blah. Like... But we still haven't gotten there, like, quite there yet, you know? Rose is, like, seeing it, but it's not quite reality for her yet, you know? And there's still... Whatever, oh my god, I'm so excited to keep watching. It's so good. It's literally so good.
Yeah, it's, like, a great, like, self-contained episode that, like, also puts things into motion for, like, later on in the season. Which is, chef's kiss. It's about the time in the episode where you ask me if I have one more thing, and I tell you that I do.
I literally the next words out of my mouth were going to be, but do you have anything else, Sarah? And the way that you anticipated that and predicted that was so beautiful.
My one thing in this episode is very small. I didn't have any bad parts. I do have a silly part that made me laugh.
Yes.
It's when all the kids are, like, in the computer lab and they're, like, typing away, and then we see that cube, like, the green cube on the screen, and, like, the dramatic music is playing. I feel like that scene went on for, like, just, like, a moment too long. Like, I was like, okay, like, I get the gist. Is it gonna end? And then they had, like, the overlay of, like, the green, like, computer screen over, like, the kids as they're typing, and it's like, this doesn't need to be, like, this extensive. Like, it, like, what's going on?
But you have to enter the mind zone of the children, and you got to look at the cute, you have to be in there. It's the Matrix. You gotta, la 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 la, the pill. Well, you know what's yummier than a good segue? Yum Yum Pod. Sarah, please, take it away. Tell us about the friend of the podcast, Yum Yum Pod.
So this is, like, an actual friend of the podcast, not, like, a random person we went to high school with that we haven't spoken in years, and, like, mentioned by full name in the beginning of our Doctor Who podcast.
All of those people are still friends of the podcast. What the hell?
No, I mean, you know, Jennifer Enright, like, I'm sorry, like, you are a friend of the podcast, I apologize. But Yum Yum Pod is a sci-fi show podcast. They have been super helpful to us with podcasting. We've been talking back and forth. They're really interactive with us, and they have a super fun show that if you are, God forbid, you're getting tired of listening to Doctor Who.
God forbid.
God forbid. But if you want to whet your actually no, not whet your appetite, because that's like you're getting hungrier. If you want to slake your thirst for sci-fi podcasts, you should listen to them. They're great. And they're the only reason that we are on Apple Podcasts and iHeartRadio. So shout out to them. Listen to them.
Shout out. And they're really can vouch. We listened to a few episodes. Very funny. If you're into sci-fi other than Doctor Who, then what are you waiting for? Yum, yum, yum. Eat it up.
Speaking of eating it up, the people in the Philippines are eating up our podcast. We have
That was really good, Sarah.
I received an email today informing me that our podcast is number 93 in TV reviews in the Philippines. So thank you to people in the Philippines.
Subject line, Dr. What is ranking very well in Philippines. And thank you, all of our friends in the Philippines. We love you. Specifically, SJ and Gab. I know you guys are carrying me on Apple Podcast right now. Other friends of the podcast, the Secret Treehouse
Yes.
podcast. They just came out with a brand new episode about challengers for a belated Pride Month. So if you love gay tennis players and Zendaya, go check it out.
Oh, Challengers was so good. Challengers, but it's like 9 Jack Rose.
Oh, stop. I would actually watch it then, because I did not watch Challengers.
The fanfic writers need to get on that. Also, why didn't you watch Challengers?
Hold on, can we back it up? Fanfic writers, that's you, Sarah. Make it happen.
I'm working on something. I can't lose my focus.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, when you're done with that something, which I will not reveal because I'm a kind friend, we should collab on the 9 Rose Jack Challengers fanfic.
That would be really fun.
That would be really fun. I could get back in the game.
We need Entropire back in the AO3 arena.
But if you want to hear more about the fanfiction that we may or may not be writing, or about episodes, bloopers, promos, things we're doing, follow us on Tumblr and Instagram at
Dr. What Podcast on Tumblr and dr.what.podcast on Instagram.
Ring-a-ling-a-ling, recess. Dr. What?